Good morning. It is Monday, September 22nd, 2025, and I'm getting ready to get back to my regular routine. I had hand surgery. I had a big tumor in the palm of this right hand, which is my dominant hand, and the doctor told me to kind of take it easy. So I still have a little tenderness in the sole of my palm, but I'm going to go ahead and see how doing some diamond push-ups and some regular push-ups feel. But today's topic is analogies. How low can you go? And this is like a cautionary tale for anyone who tries to use analogies to the ultimate extent of proving and illustrating a point, because sometimes we go beyond illustrating the point to making it a philosophy that just doesn't work, especially if somebody who can take a moment to sit back and think and challenge what the person is saying. If you do that, you'll actually see where their analogy falls apart. Two examples I'm going to give you is the dating marketplace. The dating marketplace converts pretty much all aspects of human interaction into a series of exchanges to the penny. I mean, everything has a associated cost and value, but I like those commercials that Visa used to do where they would say, here we have a Birkin bag, $4,000. And then we have dinner at Chez La Ra restaurant, $600. Being together with your wife, priceless. So there's just some things that you cannot really associate the actual cost to as much as you would like to try. But that's the whole point of the sexual marketplace. If you get so accustomed to using this analogy, you'll find your thinking being narrowed and funneled down into where you can't really even see the real value of things that have no real capital value. You know, capitalism is supposed to be, as defined in economic books going back 100 years before we became industrialized, it is the free exchange of products, services for an associated cost. Free exchange is the key, but free exchange also implies good faith. And hopefully in good faith, it's not so much as let the buyer beware. It's more kind of like on the same level as you would want to treat people the way you want to be treated. For the person who's trying to trick somebody into a deal where they gain all the advantages to the deprivation or the hurt of another person, and they know this is going to hurt them, that's not good faith. You have to think of some alternative angles to do an exchange, because in the free exchange between people, there's something in it for each person to gain. I always gave the example of the fisherman who's tired of eating fish. He loves fish, but he's sick of eating fish. So he's in the marketplace. He runs across a guy who's a cattle rancher. And so he's got plenty of meat, plenty of steak, plenty of whatever meat that a person could want and enjoy. And the fisherman sees the guy, says, oh, wow, I've never had meat before. And he eats the meat. And he's like, oh, man, this is great. I tell you what, man, I have been fishing and I've accumulated a nice surplus of fish. How about I trade you some of this fish for some of that meat? And they both agree. I'm going to give you so much of my surplus meat for some of your surplus fish. And both their lives become more enriched. Can you see that? You should be able to see this. Here it was. The fisherman had just a narrow range of of cuisines that he could enjoy having only fish as available to his recipes. But now he's expanded his recipes to include cattle, beef, you know, and then it could go extend to a chicken farmer, you know, he's making eggs, he's got chicken, you know, he could go ahead and negotiate something where he's selling the chickens and the eggs to both the cattle rancher and to the fisherman in exchange for that. So everybody's being elevated as a result of these free exchanges. Nobody's being forced, nobody's being tricked. Everybody's really trying to work something out to the benefit of themselves, but also to the benefit of the person they're interacting with. So this is the whole point of carrying analogies to a certain point. But getting back to the focus of, here we are talking about a sexual marketplace. I would say that in the sexual marketplace, there shouldn't really be any sex going on in terms of a woman's value truly being appreciated and truly taken advantage of. Nature did not make women to where they should just be frivolous with their sexuality. Frivolous means you just do it because you feel like it and all of this. And society and nature proves out that for all of the women that have done it, there are only tiny handfuls of women who could say, well, in my college years, I had a ball. I was getting railed out by hordes of men. And ultimately, I was able to, you know, rein in a guy, have some children, and live this stereotypical happy life. Very few women do that. And it's the same thing as somebody who falls off of a 10-story building and survives. You know, would you recommend the average person jumping off the 10-story building, you know, to have that experience of survival? No, they're going to probably die. The likelihood of them surviving is very slim, and everybody is astonished that that person was able to survive. I mean, to fall off a tall building like that and survive is almost miraculous. But for whatever circumstances that had allowed that person to live, good for you. But you shouldn't be parading your experience as being the typical result of such action. Next example is, did the capitalistic one. The next example, kind of at a loss. I lost track of my train of thought. Let me see if I can gather my thoughts again and pick up where I left off. The next example is animals, where people try to make the connection that humans are like animals, to the degree that when men run around here having sex with a whole bunch of different women, that this is natural and it's acceptable. And I would say on a certain degree, I would agree, but there are so many exceptions to this rule in nature, whereby which we could say we are the exception to all of the rules. For example, many mammals in the wild, in nature, are very free-spirited. I mean, if you just look in your local neighborhood, you'll see stray dogs running around the neighborhood. And if the dog catcher doesn't catch them, a female bitch might run across a male dog. They'll take 2 sniffs at each other, and next minute, boom, they're having sex. And lo and behold, later on down the road, the little bitch has babies. That, to me, is emblematic of human beings following a similar pattern. But is this the natural way to go for us as human beings? I really don't think so. But let's continue. Penguins, for some oddball ass reason, nature has put in them a loyalty and a dedication whereby which the only penguin that has sex with the female penguin becomes mated with that female penguin for life. And they work together to raise their offspring in harmony with nature. And we can see that if you go up to Alaska or some of the northern Arctic climes where penguins are known to live, they are flourishing. They are doing very well. So I'm not even sure if the population of penguins outstrips the population of the king of the jungle in the Serengeti. So, but the long and the short of it is, I remember some of these podcasters making the reference that lions, when they defeat the male alpha who's got control of a certain territory and a certain number of female lionesses, when the alpha is killed, the dominant or the surviving lion, who now is the new alpha, he will kill off all of the children, all of the cubs that the previous male lion had sired, but he will preserve all of the female lions. So if we were to try to justify our behaviors in life, where we see a beautiful woman with a beautiful man and they have children, and I happen to want this woman and I kill him off, and the child, if it's a son, I'm gonna kill the child off too, and then I'm gonna take this woman off and she's gonna be my wife. Do you see where these analogies fall apart? They fall apart because in human culture, in human interactions, we have limitations to the kinds of behavior that we consider barbarous or uncivilized. And it's at that point that I'm going to conclude this video, in as much as that I think I've made my point. You can only take these analogies to a point of understanding kind of how things go, and then you can go ahead and decide, is this a reasonable way of attacking life in your own particular situation? If you don't have a problem being, like the stray dog that runs around and randomly has sex with somebody just upon smelling them, seeing them, being sexually attracted to them, and ultimately having kids. You don't even know the dude's name. You don't know his pedigree. You don't know anything other than he was attractive, the mood was right, and I just had to have him have sex with me. Same thing with the guy. I just had to have sex with this girl. I didn't care to even know whether she had herpes, AIDS, or gonorrhea. She was just so pretty, and I just had to have. Those are the things that would distinguish us from the animal kingdom, that we have the opportunity to not just yield to these passions, yield to our desires, yield to instinct and nature. We have the opportunity to go beyond. And to go beyond that is priceless. I'm telling you, for a person to dedicate themselves to sacrificing their youth to go to university, to get a degree that is of true value to society, that is totally going against your nature, because your nature is naturally lazy. You don't want to work. For somebody to say they really look forward to going to work, I don't know anybody that actually does that. What they really enjoy is the status. They enjoy the money. They enjoy the liberties that doing these things affords them. Because I'll tell you straight up right now, I've got several things to do today, and I would much rather just do my little body exercises here at the track, eat a nice breakfast, and go take a nap. Then what I would do after that is wake up and maybe take on learning a second language. Like right now, I just bought some books. One is learning Spanish and another is learning Portuguese. I'm going to start trying to set aside some time to do that. And I really hope by the end of next year, I'll be fairly proficient in speaking either Spanish, Portuguese, or even both. I'm not going to limit myself to say I can only learn one. I'm going to actually start setting aside time to do this. Yesterday was like the first Sunday that I decided to literally not use my phone, not do anything, but just give my body a chance to restore itself and rejuvenate itself. And I mean, I feel great this morning. I am energized. I got up at 3, washed my car, cleaned myself up, got in the car and came down to the track to do some exercise. I'm going to do my push-ups, do some crunches, do some leg raises, and then begin my day. So with that, I just hope this will help. And for anybody that plans on taking my thoughts and putting them in a book, and I find out about it, just understand I wrote this in a video form. And I would really appreciate that you give me the credit if this was the source of where you got this idea. I'm very certain that wise men, we all tend to think in similar terms, but I was the one first to convey this idea on YouTube, and I really hope to receive the credit and eventually have more people watch more and more of my videos. So for that, I tell everybody have a good morning, and I'll see you in the next video. My next video, just in case you were wondering, it's going to be a teaser here, was the video that I promised over the weekend to illustrate how marriage is truly for elite people. It is truly for the elite. I mean, it's kind of like going back to the Bible. God made marriage for the first man and the first woman. And it's at a point where the true blessings and benefits are not just going to come from ordinary people. Those people were super special, and they were the first married couple. So if you think it's just for everybody, it's not for everybody. But I'll elaborate on that one in the next video. Take care, guys.